Nights at Freddy's follows troubled older brother Mike, played by Josh Hutcherson, as due to a recent family tragedy, he becomes the guardian of his socially withdrawn sister Abby. Abby likes to spend her time drawing and talking to her imaginary friends. However, when money gets tight, Mike has to take a job at the abandoned, rundown, honestly nightmare version of Chuck E. Cheese, Freddy Fazbear's. When Mike starts working there, he realizes that these animatronics are a little bit more animated than he gave them credit for.
You must be new security guard.
Can I help you, officer?
Have you met them yet?
Met who?
Them.
Now, admittedly, I don't know much about the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. I played the first game and it was super scary at the time it came out. I remember it being quite viral. And I dipped my toes into the second game many, many, many years ago. But that's about the extent of it. Since then, the Five Nights at Freddy's games have taken off. They've become a pop culture phenomenon. And kids from about 8 to 15 have made it huge on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch playing these games. So because of that, this is a huge movie release. Like, this is a big movie release in the horror community. But I'm not the target audience for this. So, and I couldn't go in expecting a Kubrick film. I couldn't go in expecting The Shining. That'd be dumb. That's on me, right? However, lucky for me, I have two very switched on FNAF fans in my family. My 10 and 8-year-old nephews, Flynn and Kai, were kind enough to escort me to the movies and be my guides into the cinematic world of FNAF. And can I say, we had a fantastic time with this movie. Now, like I said, if you're going into this expecting Ari Aster, that's on you, bro. Like, this isn't Midsommar, this isn't Hereditary. Surprisingly, in our cinema, Flynn and Kai were the only kids. Everyone else was adults, which I thought was interesting. That's not what Blumhouse is trying to do with this movie, right? They are leveraging this movie to be an entry point into the world of horror cinema, which is something they do really well. Like, they are a horror cinema production company. For that 8 to 15-year-old audience, they nailed this movie. Like, this is everything they want. This is a slasher, through and through. This is a slasher. Yes, it's basically Willy's Wonderland with Nick Cage for kids, but that's okay with me. Black Mirror's Goosebumps for adults. I love Black Mirror, but that's what it is. What I didn't expect to get out of this movie is a peek into the intense lore that surrounds this universe. I remember when I was a kid, I played Alien vs. Predator with my brother, admittedly too young, and we nerded out over all the different types of aliens, the different types of weaponry, the different storylines and characters. So we got absolutely pumped when the AVP, the first one in like 2004, came out. Like, we were stoked. We went and watched it with our parents, and then I remember just lore dumping on them on the car ride home, just telling them everything. This is why this happens. This is why this works. Now, admittedly, this isn't as hardcore as Alien vs. Predator. But this will give your kids, nephews, nieces, young person in general, that experience. It will be the touch point for them to be able to do that. This movie is a great delivery system for the seed that is a shared love of horror. And while it isn't a Jordan Peele film, it's a great time. It's a really good time. Like, if that's what you're going in for, you'll have a lot of fun with this movie. Both Flynn and Kai loved the amount of gore shown. You don't really see too many of the kills, per se, on screen, right? They're mostly like silhouettes or sounds, or, it happens around a corner, so you don't get there at the right time. But that's really effective, because what it does is it gives you the danger without the imagery that could cause, nightmares and scarring later on that you're going to have to undo. Blumhouse, honestly, went a little bit harder in the paint than I thought they were going to go. Like, there are some pretty brutal kills in this, but they show you the aftermath of those kills. So you do get to see a bit of the gore, but you don't actually get to see it happening. So be warned. There is some pretty brutal stuff in this, but you don't really see it happening, but you do see the aftermath. And I was surprised. I was like, oh damn, we're going here. Which, credit to them. They're not, they're not wrapping into kids in cotton wool. They're going after it. The boys also praise how accurate the movie was to the law. Now, obviously, I can't speak on that, but these two, they know their shit. And if you're going to make a movie with such a deep lore, you better not mess it up, because kids will find it and they will poke holes in it. And what do we know about kids? They're honest as all hell. The last thing you want as a screenwriter for a horror film is to be absolutely flamethrowered by some 8-year-old on TikTok while they're dancing to Savage by Megan Thee Stallion. Like, that's a pain no Panadol is going to fix, bro. So, Blumhouse were clever to nail that. They even made a big brain marketing decision to have a few cameos by some heavyweights in the FNAF sphere. And while they went over my head, and probably will if you're over like 18, the boys love that. They picked them straight away, and I know a lot of kids will enjoy that fan service. It's like when I watch Cabin in the Woods or Scream or whatever, and I get to pick out all the little, that's blah, 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 Ice Nine Kills poster on the fridge. This movie gave them that. There is enough for parents to enjoy as well. Josh Hutcherson was great as Mike. He plays like a struggling guardian, just fumbling his way through his responsibilities. But he's trying his best. You can see he loves Abby, and he's trying his best. And I think that's a character that most parents, aunts, uncles are going to relate to. If you're a horror movie fan, I'm sure you get as excited as I do too, every time you see Horror Hall of Famer Matthew Lillard on screen. Like, he plays like a grumpy career counselor in this, and it's Matthew Lillard. He nails it. Of course he nails it. But it's fun. It's just fun seeing him. It's like, hell yeah, Matt. You know what's going on. You've got your finger on the pulse. The only problem I really had with this movie is that some of the dialogue with the police officer Vanessa seemed quite awkward. I don't know if that was intentional to make her like more of a suspicious character, but the problem with doing that is I picked her intentions like right off the bat. Like, her behavior was so weird that I was like, okay, I know what you're up to. She's a police officer, and she throws someone's medication into a river. Like, I don't think she's a corrupt cop or anything in this, but like, it just seems like a weird move for an officer of the law. Did make me laugh though. Also, the auntie in this is like cartoonishly awful, like Trunchbull in Matilda awful, and I didn't love that. But it's a horror film, you got to have someone to hate, right? So I understand why they did it. I recommend watching this if you want to be the cool parents, if you want to be a cool aunt or uncle or support worker. I'm serious. Here you go. Blumhouse is doing the heavy lifting here. They're giving it to you on a silver platter. If you're a horror-loving guardian who wants to find common ground with a younger family member, like if you're struggling to connect to some kids, take them to this, man. This is great. If you love horror, this is perfect for that. If you played or loved the games, you'll get a lot out of this. If you're a bit of a FNAF lore nerd, you'll like this. I don't recommend watching this if you want something really serious and really scary. Once again, keep the target audience in mind. If you have no connection to Five Nights at Freddy's at all, and don't have family members that do, you probably won't get a lot out of this either. There's no point. But if you do, you'll get a lot out. The highlight of this movie, honestly, was the car ride home with two very excited dudes. Like, we had conversations about lore. We had conversations about who was the best animatronic. We talked about our favourite kill. What was our favourite scene? The only thing that stopped us talking was bedtime. Blumhouse knew the assignment, and given what they had, they nailed it. If you're someone who's worried that you don't have enough good quality family time, as a horror fan, you can't ask for much better than this, man. It's here it is on a platter. Like, they're giving it to you. I'm telling you. Take them to this. It's a fun time. You're going to have some very excited kids. Halloween weekend is here. This movie will be the horror awakening for like a whole generation of kids. I can see it now. Think back on your horror awakening. It's usually not going to be something like The Shining or Hereditary. For me, it was probably like Freddy vs. Jason, or maybe the urban legends, movies. Like, they're not, you don't want your first one to be a masterpiece. You want to build up to those. This is that. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow for another review. Peace.